Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Anna Stansfield. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we take a look back at stories from our politics and money teams, from the boom in marijuana sales during the Super Bowl to laws that target drag queens.
The last Arizona Super Bowl generated more than $719 million in revenue for the state. This time around, the sale of adult-use marijuana is now legal. Cronkite News reporter Maria Stobbs shows us how cannabis sales will have an impact on revenue this year.
Cannabis shops across the valley prepare for the rush of tourists arriving with the Super Bowl. One dispensary, Mint Cannabis, is stocking up on weed-infused pizza and wings for the big day.
We're hoping to do somewhere around 500 to 700 pizzas, so we'll have that many prepped. We didn't think there was going to be that big a demand for a infused pizza, but apparently there is.
Some customers are already thinking of their Super Bowl orders ahead of time.
I usually get fries. Had the pizza, I haven't had the wings, so I'll probably do pizza, wings, fries combo.
More than 1 million visitors attended events surrounding the last Arizona Super Bowl. With these numbers, economists with the National Cannabis Industry Association expect to see a spike in sales.
With the amount of usage rates, because not everybody consumes cannabis, and then at a sales amount of $60 per transaction, that would be roughly $20 million in increased sales.
Some dispensaries are even offering Super Bowl-themed deals to attract tourists arriving for the game.
We're trying to do our best to chase the tourist, without forgetting the local guy who's been a regular consumer.
And chasing out-of-towners who may not have access to recreational marijuana in their home state is exactly what will raise revenue for dispensaries, according to Whitney.
There's going to be that new experience of participating in the legal market, and then they're going to spend more than they would normally do even back in their home state.
Mint opened a new location in preparation for the Super Bowl just 3 miles away from the stadium.
We weren't scheduled to launch our 75th Avenue store until closer to March. We kind of moved everything up 30 days up so that we could be open for the Super Bowl.
In Phoenix, Maria Stobbs, Cronkite News.
A local indigenous business in Mesa hopes to inspire others to chase their dreams.
Cronkite News reporter Connor McGill looks into this business and the overall economic impact the indigenous community has in Arizona.
It's a food product well known to the indigenous community, typically shared as a side dish.
It's like a flat piece of bread that's not deep fried, it's shallow fried on each side, and it's savory. You could put sweet stuff on it, and you can put proteins on it.
Hope Peshlakai is the owner of Hope's Fry Bread in Mesa, which opened in October, serving fry bread and other traditional Navajo dishes. But it's more than just a piece of bread, bringing hope, education, and community.
Sharing my culture, sharing my food, my love of my people, and of our history, that although it was a dark history, that we have persevered and we're here today and we're strong.
According to the latest data from the U.S. Small Business Administration, less than 0.08 of Arizona businesses are Native-owned. The Arizona American Indian Chamber of Commerce says it wants to grow the indigenous business footprint.
So there are a lot of people that want to work in the tribal community and just don't know how.
Colton Schoen, a reporter and anchor for AZ Family, has reported on indigenous communities for many years. He understands some of the barriers.
When it comes to businesses, I find that a lot of the Native people are trying to find out how they can do this because it can be tough.
Which is one reason Schoen wants to highlight the community in his work.
We are in many different fields, and we just want people to know that, we want to be represented too in everything.
Peshlakai is hopeful her success inspires others in the indigenous community to start up their own businesses.
Don't be afraid. Get that confidence because you can do it.
Peshlakai continues to educate people about the importance of indigenous culture, one delicious dish at a time. In Mesa, Connor McGill, Cronkite News.
Hope's Fry Bread is looking to expand to 5 locations within the next 5 years across the valley.
You can find more information on how you can join the Indian American Chamber of Commerce at aiccaz.com.
Employees earning minimum wage in Flagstaff are getting a boost in pay whether businesses like it or not.
Cronkite News reporter Alexia Stambridge tells us that starting in January of 2023, Flagstaff minimum wage will go up more than $1 per hour.
Ski season is here, and First Chair Rental Shop is ready for the tourists looking for snow. But looming over this seasonal business is the minimum wage increase coming in January.
They just see a great big number of, oh my gosh, we're going to make this much minimum wage, but the ripple effect to a business is pretty devastating.
In 2023, the hourly minimum wage will increase for most workers from $15.50 to $16.80. Hourly tipped minimum wage will also increase. Owner of First Chair Rental Shop, Robbie Kerr, says paying these higher wages makes it more difficult to give merit-based raises to employees.
Now I have to start everybody at, minimum wage.
While raising minimum wage can help some employees, businesses like First Chair Rental Shop say they are forced to raise their prices, ultimately hurting the consumer.
Former Flagstaff City Council member Eva Putsava argues that raising minimum wage will help moderate the impact of inflation for low-wage workers.
The cost of labor wouldn't have gone up this drastically if the businesses have been increasing the wages.
Management analyst for the city of Flagstaff, Chris Rohde, says depending on the consumer price index, the minimum wage will continue to go up yearly in Flagstaff because of a ballot measure passed in 2016.
The only way to stop that would be to repeal this amendment. It was passed by the voters, so it is voter protected.
Rohde says they try to inform and give businesses as much time as possible to prepare for the change. Kerr says he wants to keep his prices as low as possible, but businesses like his have to choose where to make increases.
Otherwise, I don't know how people can stay in business.
In Flagstaff, Alexia Stanbridge, Cronkite News.
Flagstaff workers aren't the only ones who will see an increase in minimum wage.
Across the state, the hourly wage will increase to $13.85 an hour in January.
While inflation is slowing down slightly, consumers are still paying 10% more at the grocery store. One of the bigger ticket items, eggs. Cronkite News reporter Madeline Jaskowiak shows us how Arizonans are turning to suburban farming to avoid these sky-high prices.
That is the sound of day-old chicks ready to be sold at Gordon's Feed in Phoenix.
We get about 500 chicks a week, 360 days a year. Due to the egg shortage and people wanting to get back into the backyard chickens, we have actually doubled, getting closer to the 1,000 mark every week.
Gordon Grantham urges his customers to learn how to properly care for chickens and understand its challenges.
Heat is important, especially right now for the first 2-3 months. You got to have them have at least 100, 103 degrees, 24/7.
Quita Jackson houses 4 hens in her backyard and says raising chicks and caring for chickens is a big responsibility.
It's not as simple as I'm going to get chickens and then I just have eggs forever and I don't have to do anything. You got to take care of them and you want to protect your chickens.
She says to treat chicks as you would a human baby.
They're a big mess. You've got a lot of cleaning, you've got a lot of feeding. So I'm not going to say it's just like having a baby. The work that it would be, you just have to imagine you're going to have to do the same.
But what exactly is causing the egg shortage? Jerome Rosa of the Arizona Department of Agriculture says it's an epidemic of high pathogenic avian influenza, which is highly contagious and deadly to domestic poultry.
There's been about 58 million birds across the country in the last year that have had to be depopulated because of it. Of those 58 million, about 43 million of those birds are egg-laying hens.
Rosa says this has resulted in about 37 million eggs less per day every day, causing insufficient supply to meet the demand. That's unless you have a couple of these fellas in your backyard. In Phoenix, Madeline Jaskowiak, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Department of Agriculture is feeling positive about egg prices leveling out now that bird populations are replenishing. If you like the idea of raising your own chickens, do some research into your city and neighborhood rules regarding backyard chicken coops.
A new report indicates Latinos contributed billions of dollars to the Phoenix area economy. The report measures the region's fastest growing demographic group's cross-domestic product.
Cronkite News reporter Valeria Rodriguez tells us how Hispanic women in the Valley are having a lot of success in their small businesses.
Latino businesses contributed at least $65.1 billion to the Phoenix economy, according to the Metro Latino Gross Domestic Product 2023 report. Latinos are creating new businesses and spending money in Phoenix.
Latinos living in the Phoenix metro area represent a consumption market of over $44 billion. That's larger than the entire economy of the state of Wyoming. And they're making, Latinos are making contributions in all industry sectors.
Tessa Rangel, owner of Blessed Store Fashion Boutique, says it is important for Hispanics to start their business. She pushes to inspire women that are thinking of taking the leap of faith and starting their own businesses in Phoenix.
I know that things that we do, there is fear, but there is a string that you can jump easily. Whatever you do, it doesn't matter your age. We have people from 18 to 70, 80 years old. In this life, anything is possible.
Rangel and dozens of Mexican business owners recently graduated from the consular program of entrepreneurship for Mexicans abroad in Phoenix. The program helps Mexican women have successful small businesses by equipping them with the adequate resources, from teaching them about sales projection to HR.
All this has impulsed them to make their business successful, and they are able to compete on the same level as other demographic groups.
According to the Datos 2022 report, 1 out of 4 small businesses in Phoenix are Hispanic, and Latinas own 7% of them. In the newsroom, Valeria Rodriguez, Cronkite News.
The PBS NewsHour, continuing nearly 50 years of unbiased reporting.
The speech sets the foundation for Democrats as they push for voting rights.
The protesters have not yet been moved, basically having their run of the plate.
Covering a broad range of stories.
You've got less rain here now, too, right?
They're running out of water. What's it like on that stage? There's this magic.
I'm Amna Nawaz.
And I'm Jeff Bennett. Join us every weeknight on the PBS NewsHour.
There are 3 proposed bills at the state legislature that would restrict drag shows. Cronkite News reporter Anna Stansfield takes a look on what the proposed bills hope to achieve and how they could impact the LGBTQ+ community.
As a drag queen since 2012, Dagoberto Bailon has found his true self through performing.
Performing makes me feel free. I think for the longest time I didn't have a space where I felt like myself. And when I perform, when I put on a wig, I can truly say that I am myself.
When he first started performing, he was worried about what his friends and family might think. But now he embraces that more feminine side of himself.
It just makes me feel very powerful, because I think it's not about anyone else except it's about me, finding my place, finding me.
Senator Anthony Kern is proposing 2 bills that could restrict drag shows like the ones Bailon performs in.
I think there's a movement out there to sexualize our kids, our minors that can't really think for themselves and need the adult guidance.
Senate Bill 1028 says that these performances would not be able to occur on public property or anywhere a minor may be able to see it. Senator Kern's second bill, 1030, limits the time of day in which these shows can take place. It also would set more specific zoning requirements on where these shows can occur. A violation of either of these bills would result in a misdemeanor.
I think probably most of the drag community is not in favor of sexualizing our kids, but there are the few that are, and so those are the ones, that I'm going after, and my goal in this whole legislation is protecting children.
Dagoberto says these bills are just another example of politicians trying to bring down the LGBTQ community.
And I think this constant attack on the LGBT community really sends the message that adults don't care for LGBT children, right? That we should continue hiding.
A third bill has been introduced by Senator Kavanaugh. This would restrict the use of any state or federal money for drag performances. In Phoenix, Anna Stansfield, Cronkite News.
The arguments for and against this legislation may not matter, as when questioned about the bills, Governor Katie Hobbs says she plans to veto them.
With the recent mass shootings across the country, gun safety continues to be at the forefront of many political conversations. Cronkite News reporter Anna Stansfield tells us how State Representative Jennifer Longden is hoping to increase gun safety in Arizona.
As a survivor of gun violence, Representative Longden is calling for action to increase gun safety across Arizona. Currently, she has proposed 10 bills that are still awaiting action from the House. Here are the 4 we're focusing on. House Bill 2177 establishes a process where someone's concealed weapons permit would be removed if they are convicted of a felony or domestic violence offense. House Bill 2180 addresses the waiting period between the purchase of a firearm and its delivery. Currently in Arizona, there is no waiting period, but if this bill is passed, those hoping to buy a gun will have to wait 3 days before it's in their hands. Next, we have House Bill 2182. This bill would change how unlicensed gun owners transfer or sell their firearms. They would now be required to go through a licensed dealer. Finally, we have House Bill 2193. This would raise the current legal age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21. If this bill passes, anyone under the age of 21 would not be able to buy or use a gun without proper supervision, like being on a supervised gun range. Feelings about these proposed bills are mixed.
And it's really important to be out in force and to show our lawmakers that the vast majority of people in this state support gun safety laws. And we expect them to act, to pass life-saving laws that are proven by data to make our communities safer.
What I don't understand is a lot of these gun laws are really only going to affect legal gun owners. They're not going to affect the criminals. Like the criminal's not going to look at a new law and be like, oh, I guess I can't do that now. Like a criminal is going to do whatever they want. You can totally ban guns in the country and criminals would still find a way to get access to it.
These bills still have a long way to go before they become law. In the past, a Republican-controlled legislature has not supported gun legislation like these bills. At the Google touchscreen, Anna Stansfield, Cronkite News.
Another bill, HB 2332, is not sponsored by Representative Longden, but it would require gun safety education in schools between grades 6 through 12. More on that later this week here on Cronkite News.
The number of fentanyl pills seized by law enforcement continues to rise across Arizona.
Cronkite News reporter Connor McGill spoke with one family who's turning their grief into hope.
We don't want any other family to have to go through what we've been through in the last 20 months. My family is broken.
It was half an M30 pill that took the life of their daughter, Ashley Dunn. A early morning phone call upended this family's world. Dunn was rushed to the hospital after she was given 6 doses of Narcan.
It's a miracle they got her heart beating again.
It's a miracle
honestly.
that they got her out of her house and got her to the hospital so we could at least see her and be with her the last 3 days.
The Dunns were heartbroken as signs pointed to Ashley being brain dead. They begged the doctors to keep her alive long enough to survive through her son's 5th birthday, her parents later taking her off life support. According to the DEA, Arizona seized over 22 million fentanyl-laced fake prescription pills in 2022. That's more than 43% of what was seized across the country. To the south of the state, there are alarming signs of the growing issue at the border.
One thing that makes this point of entry different compared to dozens of others across the United States is the amount of fentanyl that's been seized right here. Already in the first 3 months of the fiscal year, the port of entry has seized more fentanyl than the previous fiscal year.
Nogales is a fairly small town, and so 10 or 15 million fentanyl pills, over a few month period aren't coming to Nogales, to Tucson, to Phoenix. They're going to spread out through the U.S.
Drug traffickers are using various methods to transport the drug, from as holy as a picture of the Virgin Mary to as simple as a yard decoration, both of which were once stuffed with thousands of fentanyl pills. CBP is using new technology, including X-ray machines, to stay ahead of the upward trend of fentanyl.
But I can say my team here is ready, and they're not going to stop looking.
While conversations on how to combat the drug from coming in continue, the Dunn family is pushing for change at the state capitol.
You need to stand up for our families. You need to make a commitment to save lives. This law will create deterrent in sales.
The Judiciary Committee recently heard arguments for and against House Bill 2167, created by Representative Kwong Win. The bill would make drug trafficking homicide a Class 1 felony.
2 ayes, 5 nays, 1 present. You have failed to pass House Bill 2167.
Though this is just one hurdle, the Dunn family plans to continue on with their advocacy in hopes for change.
I will never stop until I take my last breath. I will never stop trying to put fentanyl dealers in jail. I will never stop. Nothing's going to stop me.
Connor McGill, Cronkite News.
This is the second time a bill regarding penalties for fentanyl-related crimes was proposed. Dunn says she will continue to try working with legislators, but is prepared to take the issue to voters to make real change happen.
The passing of Proposition 308 will allow undocumented students to pay in-state tuition and receive financial aid if they have attended an Arizona high school for at least 2 years. As Yuri Hahn reports, this repeals the 2006 initiative on Prop 300 that prevented students from receiving such grants.
Good girl.
Sarai Dueñas is a senior at Phoenix Christian Academy. She's a DACA recipient, and with the passage of 308, she looks forward to a brighter future going to community college and work as a paramedic.
Yeah, I was definitely excited because it'd make the process much easier and me getting into college, and it's really gonna help me a lot. So I was definitely happy about it.
Sarai says this proposition is life-changing, and without it, she would have struggled after graduation.
I feel like, most of us have grown up in the US, and we definitely deserve a chance to have the same opportunities as people that do have a chance here. And definitely it would be a positive change.
At Arizona State University, Jose Patino works as a board member at Aliento. Cheers here from this youth-led organization on TikTok celebrating the passage of Prop 308 that serves undocumented and DACA students.
What we're doing right now with Arizona and also ASU, particularly as an implementation plan, how do we make sure that the colleges are aware of the new policy, how do they implement it, and then how do they train their staff, college advisors, to make sure to adequately advise students.
Aliento says students will start to see the benefits of Prop 308 this spring. They're encouraging students to apply to in-state colleges now, something Sarai plans to do.
For all those people that voted for the law to be passed, it definitely would change not just mine, but many other students' lives as well.
In Phoenix, Yuri Hahn, Cronkite News.
Patino is now working on education outreach with high schools and colleges to ensure everyone knows about the new opportunities the proposition will provide.
As the Valley gears up for the Super Bowl, human trafficking becomes a topic of conversation.
I met with organizations that are bringing awareness to this issue.
On a recent Saturday, community members gathered, putting labels on soap and makeup wipes. A small gesture with a lofty goal.
It gets frustrating on one hand because so many people still have no idea that this happens in America.
Each label with information on how to spot human trafficking and a phone number for those who may need help. It's the kind of information that would have been a lifeline when Teresa Flores was trafficked at 15.
And when they were finished with me, they took me back home and I would sneak back inside.
Flores spent 2 years trapped in a terrible cycle. Now she's using her experience to educate those in the community. The thousands of tourists who travel to Arizona for the Super Bowl make for a big audience for this education campaign.
We know that the traffickers are using this opportunity too to make more money and bring girls into the city to sell them. And so we're going to use the same opportunity to try and rescue them.
College student Anaya Glipsy came to this event with her aunt to learn more about human trafficking and what she could do to help.
It may not be helpful today, but it might be helpful for maybe a year or two from now.
The Soap Project distributed the labeled materials to 250 hotels across the Phoenix area, along with information on how to spot human trafficking.
We don't even know how many are being trafficked. That number is impossible to find out. And even if we just save one today, I'm okay with that.
human trafficking remains a growing issue across the United States. According to the Arizona Attorney General's office, the average age of sex trafficking victims is between 13 and 15 years old. The National Trafficking Hotline reported in 2021 there were 651 human trafficking tips called in for Arizona, involving 217 cases and 337 victims.
I am a survivor. I am a mother, and I have a voice, and I'm here to stand up against human trafficking.
Similarly, at the age of 15, Alicia Tucker's life changed forever.
He set the bait, and I took it.
Tucker now calls herself a survivor, telling her story for the first time in a room full of executives from the tourism industry. Her hope? To show how a horrific experience can lead to a better path.
When you're in the trenches and when you're in that lifestyle, you think nobody cares. You think nobody loves you. You think no one is fighting for you, but they are.
By reaching out directly and indirectly, both Flores and Tucker hope they can leave a mark on those who hear their stories. In Phoenix, Connor McGill, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us. For top Arizona news at any time, join us at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.